Okay, guys, I am very sorry about that. So the computer just shut off out of nowhere. 30 minutes, whatever. I don't know what happened. I feel like it's too much truth that is, yeah. They didn't expect somebody to remember everything that was done here. Too much truth. So, yeah. So it just cut off. I didn't get any warning. It just boom, boom. So, getting that other video uploaded. This is part 6 of this now. Yeah. So going back, by the way, I forgot to mention with the whole like guy that tried to sexual harass me, like the other day, he actually took his thing out and showed, and his dick, it was the smallest thing I've ever seen before. It was actually 2.5 inches. And I like was like, ooh, and it was like, I ended up just running away. I like got away. It was really, really scary that this is going on here, that now we have like this going on. So if you're a woman and you're getting on a trail in the morning, be very careful. Like I've seen stories of women being like sexually assaulted and attacked on trails in the morning. Be very careful of that. So I just wanted to note that. Let's get back to the story. So this is back to the brown rep gives me a tour of the spaceship. Back to what I was mentioning. So what I was saying is that I strongly believe that what they do here, I need to definitely keep trying to move this mouse, sorry. What they do here is they will get the cow. I believe the ships, usually you'll see some ships and they'll have about these two type of prong things in the front of the ship. And I strongly believe that this is how they are able to get the blood from the cow. They stick these two prongs into the cow, whatever prongs these are. These prongs can also probably come out of the ship some way. And that's how they're able to just get all of the blood and all of the organs, siphon it through the cow right onto a reserve onto the ship. And they have like a type of hose type of way they're able to like maneuver that. It'll go right to the ship to whatever area. So they use blood actually as water. So as humans, we use water. Aliens use blood as we would water. Like they need blood to survive, just like we need water to survive. That's how these aliens are. So I began getting very sick with frequent like kidney infections, diarrhea, flus. I suspect I was getting from this alien contact. Reptiles carry salmonella and other diseases on their skin. And as a child, I remember at one time I had gotten lizards. I was getting lizards for a while. And I didn't know that they had lizards, but the lizards that I actually were getting actually did look like the brown reptile. Uh, and other reptilians I met on the ship. Like these, I would get them at Petco. I'd always get these little lizards. They were about like $8. I'd always be like, "Mom, please!" Like, and if one would die, I would have to replace it. They would be these little brown lizards, and they would have these little. It would be dark brown. They would have these little teeny, like whitish spots, little dark brown spots, and they'd be brown. So that's exactly what kind of the reptilians. Their skin looks a bit like, it looks just like a reptile. Um, so I wonder if my targeting could have been from having these pet lizards as a child. I don't know, but I think it's more than that. I also read later on that these abductions can cause severe electrolyte imbalances, which I was frequently facing low potassium and low sodium. During this time, I was being tortured in hospitals. When I did get sick, I would get no help and actually was tortured in St. Mary's emergency room in Torrance, California. I remember it almost being like, it would just be crazy. Like they would get my name and then suddenly like switch my doctor or switch something to where I was being treated badly, symptoms and results ignored. I was now given a chest x-ray because I was suffering severe chest pain. This is where I was starting to suffer from anemia because I now was like starting to have heavy periods from having all of these babies. My chest pain was from anemia. I was not getting oxygen to my heart. Um, this this chest x-ray was actually some kind of weaponry being used, and I could not believe it. I felt the worst chest pain in my life when this machine was uh, being used. I don't know what this was, but it was something else. I never felt pain during any x-ray in my life. This hurt my heart so bad. I don't know. It made things a million times worse. This was I could not believe there was actual weaponry in an emergency room where you're supposed to help people. They were actually trying to murder me. in this emergency room with whatever technology. Um, I was rolled to the back room, and you could like tell that these nurses already, like, it was like they already knew me and had this disdain for me. It was all like a game. Like, you could tell. And this doctor came in with this other nurse, and he had like the biggest laughing like face on, like trying to hold back a big laugh. He was actually laughing at me, and it was very, very evil. He said that I had a heart murmur and he could give me some medication for anxiety. He did not, he said I didn't have anemia, which I knew was a lie because I was bleeding so heavily. I had anemia for sure, and it only got worse after the most traumatic labor ever, which also occurred when I was 26 years old. Okay, just had to take a quick water break. Okay, so this section here was an emergency C-section I had, and rape by the brown reptilian. I believe I was pregnant when I was. I believe I was pregnant when I was date raped by John. The thing was, I would never know when I was pregnant because I was raped so often while sleeping. They were they were able to accomplish this through using these psychotropic meds to really disrupt my memory and disrupt my mind. I guess I was pregnant because I was abducted suddenly one night. I was in the usual room where they would have me deliver the babies, and the brown reptile sounded frantic. He said I needed an emergency C-section right away. There was some kind of complication with the baby. I think maybe the cord was wrapped around its neck, or I don't know, but I had a clear mask put over my face and was put to sleep. I don't remember anything else from that point until I woke up. Hold on a minute. See, this is the kind of like I want to just show you how like weird this is. Oh, somebody's leaving the. I guess they're waiting for the study room, but it's like, oh my god, it's so weird. Like people, I don't know. It's just like standing like right in front of me, staring at me. It's weird. Okay, so yeah, so basically, I guess that something involving the baby. I think the cord wrapped around its neck or something like that. But the next thing I know, I had a clear mask put over my face and I was just put to sleep. I don't remember anything else from the point till I woke up. I woke up on the bed hooked up to all kinds of stuff. The brown reptile told me that I just had emergency surgery and I'd been here for 5 days now. I think the baby died, but I can't remember. I was hungry and there was no food or water for me. I was told I needed to go home now and that there was a body operating on me as me on Earth while I was here. So apparently they had cloned me, and when they abducted me, they would bring this body out and it would take my role on Earth so that people wouldn't know I was really abducted and missing. I was left to heal another day in this bed and I could not move. I remember seeing the dragon for a short while, but it was always the brown reptilian. I remember being heavily tired and they gave me some drugs like pain meds and stuff. I just wanted to go home. And every time I would see this demon's face, it was horrifying. These abductions were horrifying because these creatures were so scary looking. They scared the living fuck out of me and would hurt me, taking samples from my body, taking samples like from my vagina, and electrocuting me, testing on me, and other stuff. Most of them had blue eyes. And like I said, some of them have eyes where the eyes will either cross to the side or one eye will just go to one side. Perfect example would be Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is in Trump's cabinet. I've already met her. I've met her already, and she's one of them. So that's a perfect example. Um, so I was on the bed, and the brown reptilian came by. He said that he wanted to have sex with me. And I said no. He said, come on, please. I can make my penis like really small for you and I can shrink it to the size of a pencil or whichever. I said no. And I kept on saying no, but he ended up raping me anyways, like on this hospital bed while I was recovering from this C-section. I guess these things can change the size and appearance of their penis, sort of like chameleons and that camouflage or something like that. There's so much that they can do and manipulate. He ended up raping me, and eventually I was sent back home. During many of these deliveries, the brown reptilian would always be there. Most of them. I never would see the. I don't think the dragon was there ever during one of my deliveries. I think maybe for a short while, but not really. I never really would see the dragon that often. But the brown reptilian would always like be very evil. He would yell. I was in severe pain. He was yelling. He didn't understand that having a baby was painful or anything like that. All he wanted just was the baby's born, for it to just be born and just not to deal with the fact that, oh, how about the fact that, oh, maybe, I don't have the things that I need, or that I'm in pain, or whatever it may be. So I'm pretty sure that he was eating these babies. I'm pretty sure that they were being devoured, or who knows, maybe they were given to the dragon and the dragon would eat the babies. I don't know. I believe that they maybe have enslaved some of the babies too. I don't know, but it's very, it's heartbreaking to not know what condition my babies are in, or what, it's really sick. But then again, I have to remember that even though it is a part of me, it has part of my DNA, it's a demon. It's a demon seed. That's the thing about it. That they have used my pure light seed to create this demon seed. So this part, John breaks into my house and rapes me. Black box military technology. One afternoon, I believe it's black box. I'm going to get more into the black box military tech because that's what I believe it is. Uh, One afternoon, I was in my bed. I don't think I was taking a nap already. I don't think I was, but I suddenly fell asleep. I remember being asleep, but also aware of what was going on around me, which seemed to be most of the experience. Like they could distort reality. So I felt really drugged all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just really tired. Next thing I know, somebody is coming. I couldn't move or anything. Like, next thing I know, somebody's coming through the bedroom window. And I was sleeping in the room that was meant to be for my mother because we either shared the bed with the dogs or she slept in the front room. Um, but the dogs were so untrained and so loud, so I usually more sleep in the back room because they're so loud. So next thing I know, John is in the room. The same John that stopped talking to me, ignored me, and just ghosted me basically. Uh, I couldn't move. I felt like I was slipping like in and out of consciousness, like whatever technology, magic, or drug being used to knock me out that was really strong. Anyways, he proceeded to get on top of me, started kissing me, started touching me, started licking me, and then he started to have sex with me. I remember falling asleep off and on, but I remember once he was done, he came inside of me and then he started to leave outside the window, and I was so drugged, and I was so drugged like, but I said, wait, I'm going to get pregnant because there was no condom, no, but I was like drugged when I was saying, I was so out of it, I remember. And then he said, that's the point, and then he just left. He leaves through the window, and I ended up falling asleep. I couldn't remember this incident until later on, but I was once again pregnant. That was their goal, and soon the symptoms came up of like nausea, peeing a lot, and stuff like that. I later on did some research and looking on websites with information about this program and military operations. There's something that's called the black box. This black box can put everybody in a house to sleep. I read they will usually place this black box in front of the door of a home, and it will put everybody in the house to sleep right away. Something involving some military operations. I try to find information on this again online, but again, it's very limited to find this type of top secret information that people have exposed, and that's been on there. It's basically all been wiped out. There is a lot of censoring, basically no freedom of speech, all that stuff. But we all know that's going on. It's crazy. Okay, so cryptic alien pregnancies. During these pregnancies, they've really found some kind of way to keep it secret. I've read information online about Princess Diana and her experiences being bred by these reptilians. I don't know if this information is still up online anymore either, but they used to make it. But they know how to make it so you still get your period while you're pregnant with these babies, so no one suspects you're pregnant. They also know how to make it so these pregnancies do not show up on pregnancy tests. Every doctor that I would get was a part of this program and part of this alien breeding program. UCLA, University of Los Angeles, whatever, in California, highly involved. Highly involved. One day I had such severe stomach pains, I was in labor, and my mom had to drive me to the hospital. I didn't know what was wrong with my stomach. I just know I had so much pain. I was screaming. My mother had to like speed. It was the word. Oh my God. And the thing about it, when I would go into these labors, I wouldn't even know what was going on. It would be like, wow, I just remember being so much pain. Once I got to the ER triage room, these two men both shined the device with these lights at me. Next thing I know, boom, I'm on the spaceship, instantly transported to the spaceship. If you are bred, you have no normal doctor. These are all aliens. They're all working with these aliens and to keep the secret. I noticed at these times during these pregnancies, I did not have my period. But then again, I was also on birth control many times. So this all made no sense. No pregnancy test would show up. Doctors would always put their stethoscope on my stomach so they could hear the baby. Yeah, isn't that crazy? So they would always put it up here, but then they would move it to my stomach. I started to begin to notice that. Uh, And I was like, okay, yeah. So, during these pregnancies, I always had bad stomach pains all throughout my life. I had like diarrhea. I was having all kind of stuff, changes in my teeth, high blood pressure, severe hip pains, leg pains would occur before labor. I also had my water break many times in bed, and somehow they know when it breaks. They know when you're in labor, and they can get the baby. I don't know how it is, but they would be able to find me anytime that I went into labor, and be able to quickly get me to the ship. This is a big part of the tracking, gang stalking, and surveillance. Every time I went into labor, like I said, they would find me. Maybe that's part of why they're tracking me, because of these babies. It's insane. It came to a point where I could feel the baby kicking. I could definitely feel the babies kicking. I noticed that during the time I was pregnant with the baby, the gang stalking changing, and they always made sure that I had food. They made sure to give me extra food and stuff like that. Like if I go to a restaurant or fast food, they would put like extra food. Like they always made sure, and that's one of the biggest things. Like my mother making me obese, most of that was her making sure that I had food, because I had bottomless hunger from being pregnant. And they always made sure I had food because they knew that I was pregnant with being used to birth these babies back to back, like I was some kind of rabbit. So what will go on though is that they were actually still poisoning me and still gang stalking me during these pregnancies. So many of these babies were born with stillborn and with defects, with whoever was involved in poisoning me and stuff like that. And also the medications that I was placed on were also harming the babies, as well, harming the embryos while the baby was in development. So here's another situation here, another story where they had tried to steal my soul at the beach one day in a labor. These situations both occurred at the beach. This was back in California. So a beach I would go to frequently is Marina Del Rey in California. One day at the beach, I went into labor suddenly, like it would usually labor would happen. This white woman was there. Actually, she was walking by and she pointed the phone at me with the bright light or whatever device. It's either a phone or it's a device, whatever, the bright light, boom, next thing I know, I'm on the ship. The midwife was actually pretty frantic, and she had asked if I swam in a jacuzzi recently. Something involving like the fetus and the jacuzzi water causing like complications or something like that. And this was like one of the many babies I was bred. I've had, I want to say, probably over 20 babies through this program, through this breeding program. 20 babies or more possibly. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. So another day at the beach, a strange incident occurred spiritually. Another one occurred like this too, which I'll mention afterwards. Um, so I was at the beach. I went because I went often. I love the beach. I'd spend the beach. Actually, I'd be at the beach all day, like 9 to 5, like my whole day, or that's usually what I would do. Because I love swimming. I could swim and be in the water all day, like just nonstop. So I remember laying on my blanket when all of a sudden, it's like the afternoon. I want to say afternoon, possibly 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock, or something like that. Next thing I know, there was some kind of being that was running up on me in some kind of way, and it was so weird. It was like this being was like it was like a white colored being, and it's weird. It almost looked like if you've seen that SpongeBob episode where he draws that Frankendoodle and that thing becomes crazy. It looked like something like that. I don't know what it was, but it was like it was hollow. It was so scary. I didn't know what it was, but it was running towards me. Young Pharaoh appeared really quickly. Something was put into my mouth again, and it seemed like something was always put in my mouth and that I would transform. Well, he told me to transform into a lion or whatever was given to me. I transformed into a lion. And then young Pharaoh told me to attack whatever this thing was that I guess was trying to steal my soul or to kill me. I suddenly pounced on this thing like before it could take me. It was so sudden. It was so fast. I remember when I did this pouncing thing, it was, I could really feel it like taking my energy, like it's something involving my adrenal glands specifically. And I remember it happened so fast. So after I pounced and after I killed it, I guess it like I ended up, I was laying down and it was like I was out of it. Whatever, this took so much energy out of me that I was like kind of out of it. I remember young Pharaoh had his arm around me, like he was next to me. I was like, kind of out, like knocked out or whatever I was like. and he was next to me. He was holding my arm, and he got into an argument with whatever being came to drag this being away. Because it was like another demonic being that had to now clean up whatever I had just killed. And I guess that this was a real life alien, or so, I have no idea. It was crazy. Um, Now basically this thing was mad, and I remember young Pharaoh was saying like, well, he tried to attack her or whatever, like it actually was like an argument. I could just hear it kind of while I was like, because I kind of was like just laying on the beat. I kind of was like that, like after I had done the attack, I was like kind of just all my energy. So like, yeah, it was really really interesting. So that is what happened with that. I couldn't remember anything that happened until like later on, that these memories came back to me. Okay, so the next memory here, let me get some more. Okay, resumed. Okay, so this is where they had tried to kidnap me and take me into a FEMA camp at night. I believe in this next incident, they tried to do the same thing. They were either trying to take my soul or trying to transport me to a FEMA camp. At the time, I actually was watching YouTube, and this young black boy seemed to actually be in a FEMA camp. He was one of those conscious community pages, one of the first ones. I think I just stumbled upon it, and then I found out about the conscious community. He was one of the first ones I think I saw, and I always wondered if he actually was in a FEMA camp, because there were always comments saying he was in a FEMA camp, and they were like kind of making fun of it. Like there was one comment, I think a troll was saying, "Oh, that's why you're in a FEMA camp." Like it was like a something, and it was really scary because I had this strong feeling that he was in a FEMA camp because seemed like he was in a controlled facility. It was definitely controlled. It looked almost like just kind of like a juvenile hall or something like that, or a controlled facility. And basically, I remember they told him at times he had to go and he would have to like quickly shut the video off and he would have to leave. I don't remember the name of this page. I don't remember, but he had darker skin. He was a darker skinned black guy, short hair, very short. Yeah, I don't know if he's still around or still on YouTube, but other than that, I started to wonder about FEMA camps. So one night I was asleep as usual, not suspecting anything weird to happen or anything to go wrong. Just expecting a normal night, just being able to sleep. So someone was woken up by young Pharaoh above me. He's putting something in my mouth again. Whatever this is, he put in my mouth. Next thing I know, these men dressed in black, all black, busted through the back door connecting to the back room of the house. They had flashlights. One was actually John himself. Young Pharaoh told me to quickly become a lion, and I don't know how, but I quickly became a lion somehow. I ended up biting and scratching these men. I scratched John up too. Suddenly now, after that, I was like floating the ceiling. It was like when I was floating, it was like I was a lion. I was like moving my like paws, and I was like floating up to through the ceiling. And now I was being brought onto the ship. I remember being brought on the ship and brought to like the front. It's like a front like area of the ship with believe specific panels. I think maybe they did have some vehicular operating in this area. I'm not sure, but Young Pharaoh had this shirt on, much like the Star Trek shirts. Like it was weird. Like Young Pharaoh had this shirt. It was like burgundy, and it had the black part, and then it had the Star Trek type of like symbol thing. I was like, that's just like the Star Trek shirt. Like, oh my gosh. So I think maybe he was a part of the Galactic Federation at time. I was also watching his YouTube, and I don't know like if I was watching his YouTube at the time of these abduction experiences or if it was after. I think I was being abducted like before and after the time that I had like stumbled across Young Pharaoh's page. Yeah, see, they use radiation to break my hair off, y'all. That's why I got that piece like that. It's insane, and it's just a joke. It's crazy. So basically he started talking to me at this time. We were in the front of the ship, like he was talking to me, and uh I saw a few other people that were dressed the same way. I think I saw Frank Tufano. But during these abductions, I saw Young Pharaoh, and he was like always with me. I don't know why I was being abducted and why Young Pharaoh was frequently in these abductions, but he was. So the next was being used for my mermaid abilities. I love swimming. That was my favorite thing to do. I could swim for hours. As I said, I could stay in the water for hours. It was most of my life in California. I would go to the beach every day from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So like basically sun up till sundown. I loved water. I love to swim. I love to see underwater. I love to swim like next to the fish and like with the dolphins and stuff. And young Pharaoh and me were together in this like wood canoe or reservoir or lake. It's so weird. This was like Yeah, I thought it was a dream, but it was not. I don't believe it was a dream. This was like a mission. These were missions I was like being put on or something. I wonder where this was, but there's a lot of reddish orange sand and rock around. I want to say that's like maybe it looked like it could have been Utah. I want to say it looks similar to one of the lakes I've seen in Utah, or it could have maybe been like Horseshoe Reservoir, or I don't know. Maybe it was somewhere else. Could have maybe been in the Middle East even too. I don't know, but it had like it was really pretty. And I don't know where we were, but we were fully alone in the middle of this huge like reservoir in this canoe. And I also didn't know if I was like on another planet either. I don't know, but it's just beautiful. I was always taking like these beautiful places or whichever. So basically, he wanted me to get out of the boat and to go underwater and examine something. I had these extra abilities, and whenever I was with these aliens, I mean, I didn't have these abilities on Earth, but when I was with the aliens, like I had these abilities that I didn't have on Earth, like these powers and stuff, which was really pretty interesting. I believe these were my past life abilities because I remember being able to swim much longer and deeper. I had like these special powers more so than I did like on Earth. People thought I could hold my breath for a pretty long time, like because I actually can hold my breath very long swimming and I swim long and all that, but I could hold it even longer with the aliens. Like it's crazy. So I was able to go deep, deep underwater with wherever this was. He hooked something to me to get me to go. Like while I went underwater, I think maybe it was a cord or I don't know what it was, but I went all the way underwater and I saw underwater it was a huge white metal capsule, like capsule thingy, like or whatever. That's what I saw underwater, and when I came back to the surface, like he asked me like a lot of questions about it, and he really wanted to know like what it was. Like asked me a lot about it. So sometimes the aliens took me to places that I could swim and be in the water or be around water. I got to go to the planet that had all water on it. I remember being so happy I got to swim with dolphins and whales. I was so happy there was only water on this planet, just water, and there's no land at all. Sometimes I didn't want to go back to Earth, but they always made me go back to Earth. Like the brown reptile would be like, you have to go back, like you have to. I hated life on Earth, being poor and living with my evil mother. So sometimes like the abductions actually were like a kind of escape from this abuse and stuff like that. So next will be the next abduction, true medical records hidden, Chuck Schumer in Russian meeting. So Chuck Schumer is highly involved in my abductions, highly involved in my gang stalking. He is the one actually who is involved in putting me on this list, having these people. So if you are being gang stalked, it is Chuck Schumer that is the one who is doing all of this. He is the main handler of this whole gang stalking operation. So I was abducted frequently during this time. This abduction, I remember being in this doctor's office room and sitting on the bed on the ship. And you could see through the window, you could see the stars, you could see space and all that. I've been at the time going through the medical malpractice and medical records tampering. I knew something had been going on with my adrenal glands because I looked up my symptoms and that's what I saw. Every time I'll go to the doctors and ask them to please test for this or tell me the results, they always say everything was perfectly normal, which I knew was a lie. They were trying to murder me through many covert means, but I believe it was being blocked by the true Most High God. So Chuck Schumer came into this room. The same Chuck Schumer from my abduction at the age of 4, who told my parents I was a horrible person, I was a monster, and I killed all of them before and I needed to be removed. Well, Chuck was very mean to me, and for no reason, just no reason. The way these things would talk to you is with such hate and such disdain, such immaturity. It's disgusting. He smirked and told me I really did have the rare adrenal gland disorder, but there was nothing that I could do about it because they were going to continue to hide it. He told me that they were hiding all my medical records and were going to continue to hide them in a very malicious way. I couldn't believe that this was being done to me and I just couldn't believe it. I was very mad. This Chuck Schumer looked disgusting. He looks very scary in alien form. It's similar to what he looked like on TV, but just a little bit, a few differences, a few scarier differences with him in alien form, his full alien form. So the next thing I know, this Russian man comes into my room and sits in this chair. I think there was some kind of money paid to talk to me. They told the Russian I was psychic, and I remember the man looked at me like he was so blessed to like be in my presence or something like that. But I could tell he really was like kind of depressed. He had that typical Russian demeanor, kind of like just the cold, like very like not not happy. I don't know how to explain it. Just kind of like depressed, like kind of. I don't know. That's what I think it is. Like, or maybe it's anger, or I have no idea. So basically, he asked me a question he wanted to know the answer to. It was something about himself, something involving his emotions or something like that, and to give him the answer of what I saw. And I remember giving the Russian the answer, and then he left. Like he only got to ask me like one question, then he had to leave. So yeah, so that was that situation. I slept a lot. My mother would always call me lazy, but she didn't know that I was in this program being taken at night, being used by the sick fucking government that really is a bunch of reptilians fighting each other for power. And it's so fucking sick. I was forcibly made a part of this that I never wanted to be. I never signed up for it. I never wanted it. I never wanted these babies either and to be used like this. The next section, dragon polishes my toes before allowing labor to begin, age unknown. I remember this one abduction. I was in labor and on the bed where they put me, the usual bed. I remember the dragon was there this time. I always had my clothes removed once I got onto the ship. During each labor, I was always naked, no clothes, clothes always off. So that was usually the typical, you would always be naked through every exam, every stimulation, completely no clothes. They would not allow me to have clothes. So the dragon had seen my feet and he didn't like the nail polish color. And he made that very clear because I was in labor and crying. I was in pain. I needed help. But the dragon said we cannot start anything until my toes were painted another color. So the dragon took nail polish remover. He went and like got this nail polish. It took like time for him he had to take the polish off, and I could not even believe it. Like it was so weird. So it seems these aliens have some kind of obsession with feet. I remember one time one of the nurses, this alien was like really short alien that usually was the nurse that would deliver my babies, and he would. I remember him, yeah, all the time, and he's pretty short. I want to say that their height at probably up to about my shoulder length. I'm 5'4", so I want to say they're about 4'11". And this alien was saying, he's like, he looked at my feet because they would always take my shoes off and stuff, and he like commented on my feet saying, "Wow, like you humans have the weirdest feet ever." And I remember just being like, "Oh, okay," like. So that was that, yeah. Okay, so the next section was another C-section and Nazi German experimentation, age unknown. It was another day I was suddenly in labor and brought to the ship. This labor began in the bedroom, and the shorter alien got into my room, and then I was hit with the light from the device once again and brought onto the ship instantly. I was given Pitocin this time. I was actually given Pitocin many times. I was giving it to me in my IV, and this time things went really bad. The contractions got really bad. I didn't know about pregnancy and all this stuff being done to me. I did not know any of this stuff. The most traumatic thing was they were planning to break my water with a needle. I got really scared. I didn't want a long needle in my vagina. It looked like a huge knitting needle, and they told me they needed to put it inside and pop it. This was the most terrifying, complete terror. A big part of the trauma and why I don't want any doctor like near my vagina, touching my vagina or anything. It ended up like not being that bad when they broke my water, but it still was, it just crazy. It ended up that I now needed a C-section. Something went terribly wrong with the Pitocin. So this was not the first time. So now I was being prepped for a C-section. I was scared for my life. I was so scared. Every time I was taken and put on the ship, I was scared for my life. And there was no way to get away. No one I could tell. No justice for all that had been done to me already. They ended up saying they had to strap both my wrists down. I freaked out. I started having a panic attack. So they decided that they would just strap one of my arms down and let me have the other arm free. I didn't want this being done to me. It was a whole medical team around me. I was crying. You know, it was horrible. Some of these people looked human. And the ones that did, they looked like I said, they looked like Quasimodo. Like they have features that are a little bit off. Like I said, like they have an eye going to one side, something with their eyes that's very off. Um, like I'd mentioned Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I had actually met her in my abductions. I met her on the ship before. She is definitely an alien, 100%. So they had next thing I'm getting an injection in my back. They doing something with my back. They done this many times. Some epidurals. I ended up getting a extreme headache with this injection they put in my back. Now there was like a big complication. So something was definitely wrong with the headache now, and they had to fix it. I can't remember what was done now, but they had to do something to like fix the headache, and they were putting a curtain now over my stomach that was closing. I really just started to panic more and more and more as it was getting closer to the C-section. Um, I ended up just freaking out. It was so traumatizing. So they told me I'd feel some tugging and that would be it. I ended up actually like feeling some tugging, but I didn't feel it like too much. The baby was born. They cleaned the baby, and this was a blonde German woman with like blue eyes that handed me my baby for me to breastfeed it. I think she was a nurse, but I was drugged from the pain medications and I could not hold the baby or breastfeed it, so she took it back. I would later meet this Nazi nurse again in one of the most traumatic incidents of my life. So the next section is John begins stalking me. I was now on a point where I was frequently being bred, but I did not know I was being bred. I'm still unaware of it. I was taking a medication called Trileptal mood stabilizer. It's dramatically lowering my sodium and making me sick, especially in California heat. Uh, California began to be very hot. Now it was in the 80s. We no longer had rain. Even in the wintertime, everything was fucked up. Now I'm getting fucked up. They got rid of my favorite mall, the West Side Pavilion. They replaced that with Google. Everything was now becoming fancy. Like people from Silicon Valley coming and making like building stuff up, making things really fancy, making things very expensive. We now had illegal aliens. We had cartel, some kind of gang that was stalking me. It was really weird. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. I wanted to live always since I was a teenager where there was green grass, animals, forests, trees, rivers. That's all that I wanted. And I was planning for years on how I was going to get out the state. I always wanted to live where it was beautiful, which was the mountains, which was where there were ranches, green grass, gorgeous. And I was always trying to, plan that. I just didn't have the money. So I did actually think about John many times. I don't have sex often, and I guess I got feelings because it's like he's kind of the only guy I've ever really been with. They manipulated a lot of me dating, a lot of me having relationships because what they do is when you are a target, they will make it to where you are only gonna deal with their people, date their people, date, and these are actually all aliens playing around in human form that have worked to block my love life. So I still had feelings because I guess when you're a female you have sex and it's like that's why I should have waited till marriage to have sex, and I guess that I still just felt feelings for him, and I noticed that like everything around me was just getting so fucked up. My favorite park, Kenneth Hahn, was now looked like garbage. It was the only forest that we had like in the Matrix, and they tore that up, and I was done with California at this point. I was done. What they did was they got the illegals in there and they graffitied up the trees. There was graffiti all over the rocks, and now these illegals are now all over the country and they're going to do the same shit all over the country due to Biden, and it's disgusting. So I think John was already stalking me at this time for sure because I didn't really know exactly who was doing it, but I looked outside one day and I couldn't believe it, but I saw John in his white Toyota Highlander. Behind him, there was a black man in a nice red car too, and it was driving really close to the tail of John's car. So they were driving like this, like really close. And I remember like these cars, they drive in twos. This is when I found these cars, they drive in twos, like to do this stalking. Anyways, the black man was like looking outside the car, like for some reason his head like outside the car. He's like looking into my house, and it was crazy. So they drove by. That was that instance. Next, I know I see an instance of John again. I'm leaving my house to go somewhere. I go outside. Next thing I know, I see him. He's parked at my neighbor's house. He's in a green car, a small green car. And when he saw me, he turned his head quickly like this, like so fast. He turned his head and then he quickly turned his car on. He quickly did a quick U-turn and he just bolted out so fast. I didn't really understand it because he never wanted to talk to me again. He made it clear he hated me, and I don't understand why he was watching me. Like, why are you watching me? Why are you stalking me? So, yeah. So John began stalking me at age 26. It's been years of hell. He's also a Scorpio Sagittarius cusp, and they are known for being obsessive because I actually recently had to live with someone with the same birth date, same type of stalking behavior, surveillance type of behavior. Very, very, very dangerous. So this was extremely obsessive. So I really, like I said, I really think his name was Michael. It wasn't John. I had many pages, people coming towards me with the name Michael over and over and over. I think he was telling these people to say their name was Michael or whichever. So uh, I know that like many of like the people, if I try to go on a dating site, I would always at some point like for years I'd always come towards someone named Michael for whatever fucking reason. So I was getting hit with a really hard frequency weapons, causing me pain, causing me headaches. I also think he may have used drugs or was a drug dealer and hid it from me, like I had said. I never used drugs or anything like that, and I made that clear. So if he did use drugs, he would definitely have hid that from me because I made it clear I don't do any drugs. I don't mess with any of that. So I believe that he was involved in definitely organized crime. Definitely. Because, like I said, he also had no credit cards. He had this big wad of cash. So, John was covertly stalking me and terrorizing me. I tried to tell my mother I saw him driving past. She didn't even listen. She didn't listen. She didn't care, even though she's being stalked by my father's, supposedly my sister's dad, who's a Scorpio as well, and is coming by the house driving. It's like, what don't you understand that? And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm kind of done with my family, too. They just don't listen. They just don't get it. So, yeah. So this is the next section here. Make sure we got enough. Yeah, I think we have enough time to go through this. Okay. So I was drugged, abducted, tortured, raped, and MK ultra'd at the age of 26. John wanted to harm me, kill me, track me. I guess he developed some kind of vendetta towards me or whatever it may be. He wanted to target me. I knew something was very off with the guy. He's kind of like one of those guys you'd see on the movies who's like the shy loner, like with the glasses, like the awkward nerd kind of guy that becomes the serial killer. Well, he actually was. I was asleep and then I was awakened suddenly by John above me. He seemed to be in the same black clothes, like it was like all black or something like that. Like when he broke into my room before. Next thing I know, something is shot into my arm. It's shot right into this section of my arm. It's a needle. I'm injected with something. I don't know what it was. I later researched maybe it could have been scopolamine. I don't know. But I was drugged. And next thing I know, there was like a group with him. He's carrying me outside the bedroom window. I'm carried outside the bedroom window into the middle of the dark night. And I'm carried to some black van. I remember just being out of it. I remember being placed in the van. I remember the van had no markings. I just remember being thrown inside with the group and I was tied up in the back of this van. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember the van driving or anything, but I remember being taken out of my window. I remember seeing the van, walking out to the street and seeing the van and being basically thrown in. So, next thing I know, after that, I remember being shocked by cold water hitting my face. Boom, like I woke up from that and I'm like, what? Like, I woke up, my arms were tied up with ropes to the ceiling. And I look out and there's all these men, like, I want to say 100, possibly, or I want to say maybe 50, maybe 100 men. And these men are all very angry faces. They're very large men. Like they're like his height, like 6'2", like 6'3", or like really big men, huge guys. And they look very angry. And I later like recognized some of those men's faces were men that have been sent to gang stalk me frequently. And I remember after John threw the water at me, I just was like, wow, this very angry, like red haired white lady was standing next to him. And this was the woman that I had seen multiple times. She had like very, red hair, whatever. And a few other people were on the stage, but mostly it was like a warehouse. I'm in a warehouse now. And I'm looking at all these people. I had no fucking idea like what is going on. And they're causing me the worst. This is something here. He told me he'd kill me if I speak about it. I said, yeah, they're hitting me now with frequencies because I'm not supposed to talk about it. So yeah, anyways, basically I was now in shock. I was still kind of drugged, but the water, I guess, shocked me awake. And next thing I know, he starts to yell. He starts to yell. John starts going, "Are you a spy? Are you fucking spy? Like, are you fucking spy?" Like asking me if I'm a spy over and over. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this about? This doesn't even make any sense. I didn't even understand it at all. I'm like, what are you talking about? So he's asking me if I'm a spy. How would I? I'm like, what? Like, I'm just kind of like, you're just kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, this has to be a joke or something. So next thing I know, I'm like, no, I'm not a fucking spy. What are you talking about? Then, I'm fully naked, by the way, with all these men staring at me. I'm tied up. And the next thing I know, he's slapping me across the face and then he punches me in the stomach. And I didn't even understand like why this was being done to me or what I had done. I wasn't a spy. I was the one being spied on. I was the one being stalked. I didn't even, it was insane. He then had some whip and he like gets behind me and he starts whipping my back, like my backside. And it really hurt me a lot. And I was like crying. I was in a lot of pain. He would not stop. He didn't care. Then he grabbed my face and started like kissing me. And I didn't even understand what the fuck was going on. Next thing I know, I saw the red haired lady that was like next to him, like tases me. And I start like instantly everything like starts going black. But before everything goes fully black, next thing I know, like she starts to go down on me. And I just remember going out then and everything was completely black. But I remember that right before I slipped completely out of consciousness. And I remember being raped by like both of them, like slipping in out, like remembering some parts of being raped, like in a dark room by both of them. Um, I then remember waking up in this white room that was dark at first and the light was turned on. Things were blurry again, like the other experiences where there's this kind of clearish blur. I remember I was on this bed and I was pretty weak from all that had been done to me. It was hard to move. John was walking in with a smile and all these men. I guess those men were the men that were watching him torture me in the warehouse. I got really scared. I think they were planning to rape me and hurt me. So John smiled and told me to just disassociate like I did when my dad molested me. By the way, when I did mention to him that my father molested me, seemed to be where he completely changed towards me and became very hateful and aggressive towards me. It was shortly before we broke up that I trusted it to bring up to him about what my father did to me. Because I felt like, well, we've been together for a while. I felt like I could trust him and I could let him know, like, okay, well, if you maybe see that this is why I'm kind of this way or like, a little shy or whatever, that I was molested, I was abused and stuff like that. So I kind of like opened up and yeah, he really changed. So, anyways, back to the room. Next thing I remember, these large men came up to the table that I was on. I was already naked and they began holding me down. They began like holding my arms down. And this very large guy was like holding my arms down. I couldn't get away from him. He was about to rape me. Like these men were all about to rape me. And I suddenly I disassociated. I did the disassociation thing. I like somehow, boom, I ended up in another world, like on a beach somewhere, and I got away from these men. But I honestly still think I was possibly raped. I think what they did was some kind of mind altering or it was some part of the drugging. I was now somewhere else and a bunch of other scary, weird things happened. Now I was in a dark room with this MRI machine hooked to a computer screen, and John was there. This time, John was in this alien like form, just like Chuck Schumer. It was really weird. He still had his blue eyes and his pale skin, but he looked completely distorted. Like his face, like his mouth was distorted. It was like it was all the way over here. It was so weird. I can't really even explain it, but it was really scary. Things were pretty much like pretty clear blur. Like usually be a blur with all these abductions, as I said, and I couldn't move. I was on this metal table. He looked like a crazed mad scientist and really was. He was moving really fast too, like moving very fucking fast. He began to stick some things into my brain. It was very, very, very painful. Something was also put into my neck as well. I remember screaming in so much pain because what was being done was so painful. I remember there was something that kept on appearing in my vision when I was in so much pain, and it was dolphins. They kept on showing me these dolphins swimming while they were torturing me and implanting me with these devices. I don't know how they made it appear on the screen, but I guess that's what they were trying to do to calm me down in some sort of way. I remember these dolphins kept appearing. They were jumping. It was two dolphins together, and they were jumping and together, and they would show me this image of them in the ocean swimming. He then began to start to implant something into my eye, and I began to freak out. I can't remember how much pain I felt, with the eye or if it was painful at this part, but most of it all was. This was really, really freaked me out. And I wanted him to let me go and to stop. I realized how much of a psychopath he was and that he could just harm people and do these things and not feel any feeling or any remorse at all. He now did something to my stomach. I don't know what he did, but it was where my liver is. I don't know what he did, but he put something there. I believe he put parasites, or I don't know if this was some kind of technology or whatever it was. Something was done. A lot was done to my body at this point. Um, so I was now in a regular room. I remembered there are many rooms I remembered where I had labor and I had delivered. I was laying down in a lot of pain when that blonde hair Nazi nurse with blue eyes came over to me. She started to measure my feet with measuring tape. She then took some kind of instrument and ripped a chunk of skin off my knee. I screamed and I cried. It hurt so bad. She had this very angry, evil face and spoke in a German accent, something like, I should not cry. I should stop crying. And it was just so, I just could not believe how these people just could not feel, how they could be so evil. I just could not even believe it. I couldn't remember what else the bitch said, but I knew that this was someone very evil, zero feelings and zero empathy. Just very cold, wicked, or Russian or German. I have no idea. But it was clear that something was wanted from me, or maybe John found out about my bloodline or my DNA. And the test was to see if I'm part of whatever bloodline or maybe 144,000. I have no idea. But I believe that John is Russian or German, as I had said. He's one of them. He has tried to take my inheritance, my identity, and that's why there was so much anger towards me now, I believe, all this hatred. After the abduction, I dealt with many health issues, stomach aches, pain. I now had headaches I never had before. I noticed now that one of my eyes would become blurry at certain times. I noticed this it would usually be times where it'd be maybe they could not find me, or if I was somewhere where maybe there were a lot of men because some very jealous, like at a mall. I noticed at a mall, I was at a mall one day and then maybe it was nighttime and it was like my eye would blur instantly to see through it. Something like that. It's crazy. Um, John was very jealous. He didn't want me to be with another man, even though we were never gonna see each other again. He'd never talk to me again. He's so fucking sick. It's still being done to this day. I remember all my dating websites just being hacked, still going on. He was sending his friends towards me. If I do go on a dating site, he would have his friends come towards me. And yeah, so basically, I was implanted in many areas of my body. I feel spasms in my legs, especially the front parts of my legs. I also had red marks on my face from being slapped and marks on my back, like actual cuts on my back. I had no idea where they came from at the time. I did not remember. I had a lot of stomach issues and trouble eating, like stomach pains for a while, like after he punched me. So I lost more weight. I didn't know what was wrong with my stomach at the time, but I realized this is what it was. He really hurt me. Like I had a bruise on my stomach. And I had like red marks on my face, and then I had that stuff on my back. So, guys, so that was part 6. Okay, part 7 will be next. I've been able to have the study room, so I'm going to go ahead and check and see if I'll still be able to use it or if somebody's coming in for the slot, and we'll see how this goes. All right, guys, love y'all.